You can think of the DSP engine as one big 24 input by 24 output chip. In reality, it's 6 DSP chips sharing resources and circuitry such that they can act as if they were one chip. Analog inputs and outputs, if any, on a particular model are always wired to the DSP engine, whether you use them or not. If you only need to use 3 inputs on a 922AZ, just connect to the 3 inputs you want to use, but the 8 input connectors of the 922AZ are always wired to the DSP. Now this may seem like a waste, and we could have designed it so only the inputs that you intend to use are actually connected to the DSP engine. However, that would have been costly to implement because for such a varied input routing scheme, what with relays and such, it would have just been too expensive and you would likely not buy the product. In the long run, this scheme is elegant and cost-effective. The same is true for outputs, whether they're data ports or line-level Euroblock connectors. They are always wired to the output of the DSP engine. And, just like the inputs, analog outputs are pre-wired with a one-to-one relationship to the DSP channels. If you connect to the first Euroblock input, that's DSP input number 1. We label the data port outputs A, B, C, and so on. So if you connect to the third data port, C, then you're using DSP outputs 5 and 6. If a basis derivative has CobraNet capability, and remember, not all models have CobraNet, then any inputs not already pre-wired to analog inputs may be used as CobraNet inputs to the DSP. In the case of the 922AZ, for example, there would be up to 16 available inputs for CobraNet signals, while a 902ZZ, which has no analog inputs at all, can accept up to 24 CobraNet signals for processing by the DSP engine. Any CobraNet-capable basis can receive up to 4 CobraNet bundles at the same time, with up to 8 channels present in each bundle. Now that would be 32 signals hitting the box. You may choose any of those signals to connect to the DSP engine up to the number of available DSP inputs as mentioned. You don't have to choose the CobraNet channels in any particular order. You could choose 3 channels from the RxA bundle, 2 from RxB, 7 from RxC, for a total of 12 CobraNet signals. And that's per config. You could have other configs stored. Remember, there's up to 8 configs in a basis. You could have other configs with different CobraNet channels, even different bundles altogether. Outgoing CobraNet signals can be populated up to 4 new bundles, with up to 8 channels per bundle for a total of 32 channels. Unlike the inputs, which are limited to those available which are not already pre-wired to the DSP engine, all 24 outputs are always available to be sent as CobraNet signals, even for those DSP outputs already pre-wired to the analog outputs. You can truly send 32 channels of CobraNet audio, but since the DSP only provides 24 separate outputs, then 24 CobraNet channels would be unique sends, while the 8 remaining channels would be copies of one or more of those outputs. And just like the inputs, you don't have to always send all 4 bundles, nor does a bundle have to be fully populated with 8 channels. You might have a config with only 2 channels of CobraNet output audio, and another config with 8 channels of CobraNet audio, and an even different config with 32 channels of CobraNet audio. While our legacy devices, such as the Rave 161 and the Rave 188, do not have any representation in the Venue Manager software, and therefore no GUI access to the legacy Rave devices themselves, the bundles that those Raves send and receive can indeed be accessed from within Venue Manager. Legacy Rave devices actually have no software interface at all. You merely used some orange rotary switches on the front of the legacy Rave units to assign bundle ID numbers. Assume, for example, a legacy Rave 188 is set to transmit its single bundle of 8 audio channels onto a CobraNet network by using the orange rotary dials. A basis can be controlled via the Venue Manager GUI to access and receive those channels and that bundle of audio, and also send new CobraNet signals back to the legacy Rave 188. This bears repeating. While legacy Raves, or for that matter other non-QSC CobraNet devices, do not have representation in the Venue Manager software control screens per se, the CobraNet bundles of those devices that they send and receive can be accessed and routed with QSControl.net's Venue Manager software to and from the basis devices. Inside the DSP, any inputs can be routed to any outputs. The orange blocks you see here represent DSP functions such as mixers, filters, delays, and so on in the signal flow. Any analog inputs can be routed to CobraNet outputs and analog outputs, and any CobraNet inputs can also do the same. You can have 8 different mappings or configs stored in the basis device and recall those configs at will.